Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Adapting to the New World of Recruiting, 6 Trends to Transform Your Recruiting Strategy. My name is Claire Alloway, and I'm a part of the Jobvite marketing team here. And I just wanted to welcome you, give you a couple of administrative details about today's presentation, and then I'll hand it over to Joe and Claire at Pactiv and Forrester Research, who have graciously agreed to be our guest speakers this morning or afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. So first off, you'll notice that all your lines are muted. That's just to avoid background noise, but we would absolutely love to have your questions to Claire and Joe. They're going to be at the end of the presentation, so Claire and Joe will go through all their trends. You'll get some incredible tips and stories, and then they'll answer all your questions. So put them into the chat box at the bottom left side of the Ready Talk conference controls, and I'll be going through them and pushing them out to Joe and Claire. If you have any issues with audio, if the slides stop working for you, anything in that regard, use the chat function. I'm going to be monitoring it for all of those details. So with all of that taken care of, I'm going to pass it over to Claire, who's going to introduce herself and give you a little more background on her experience.
Thank you, Claire. And this is Claire Schooley. And I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I have been at Forrester now for a little over 12 years, and I look specifically at the area of talent management from the viewpoint of recruiting and learning and performance, succession planning, and then I also do some work on change management and change management from a people perspective rather than from the technology perspective. I actually come from the education world, which is a little unusual for an analyst, but I have been in public education from the elementary grades right up through the university, and so I'm able to bring a little different perspective to this analyst work. So with that, I'll turn it over to Joe to let him tell you about himself.
Thank you, Claire, and thank you, Claire. So as noted here, my name is Joe Sangregorio. I'm the Vice President and Chief Human Resources Officer at Pactiv. There's a lot of things that are on that slide, but there's two that stand out. One is I've been doing this for a long time, and I love what I do. In fact, I'm currently in my 35th year of practicing human resources, employee, and labor relations, and I do see myself as a practitioner. In fact, I've been doing this so long that when I started in this field, it wasn't even called HR. It was called personnel. But I've been fortunate enough to do what I do and what I love so long for many great companies, including Honeywell, American Airlines, Revlon, Macy's, and now at Pactiv. But the one piece that I want to be able to share with you today is really the love and passion for people and what we can do to ensure that companies such as your own can drive real great talent acquisition, and that's going to be my part of the presentation today, is to tell stories in terms of what we've done, who we are, and how we got there, and hopefully be able to share some of that with you. And then pass along the fact of why I do what I do and why I look forward to coming to work every day. So as indicated, I work at Pactiv. And let me tell you a little bit about Pactiv. We're headquartered in Lake Forest, Illinois, about 35 miles northwest of Chicago. We're the world's largest manufacturer of food service, disposables, and food packaging. We make 17,000 different products from 13 different material types, operating on 8 manufacturing platforms. Basically, no one does what we do, but not everybody knows our name. And if you look at the slide here, you can see the products, the packages, some of even the people that use them, whether they are celebrities, politicians, or just ourselves. One thing I can guarantee you is you may not know who Pactiv is, but you probably touch our product every day. And we're proud of that. We're proud of the fact that we have over 70 facilities around the world. We're concentrated primarily in North America, as you see here. We have 57 manufacturing facilities, but we also operate in Canada and Mexico as part of that North American spectrum there, and have facilities also in China, Germany, the UK, and Spain. But when it comes down to it, and what we really want to concentrate on today, Pactiv is built and constantly moves forward based on our people. We have 11,500 or so employees across the globe, and we have 1,600 customers. So let's talk about how do we get those employees, and what did we do at Pactiv. And at Pactiv, it was a transformation. As good as we know we are in being an industry leader, about 5 years ago when I came from a sister company here to join Pactiv, I started to realize a couple of things that were impeding our ability to continue to be that industry leader and the ability to grow the company. We were dysfunctional, and I really mean that. We were dysfunctional as an HR organization, primarily when it came to talent acquisition. So what did we do? As you can see on the slide here, it felt like I needed to, and we needed to, implode the operation. We needed to take a look at it from the beginning. The system we had was outdated. It didn't meet our needs. It was cumbersome. It was difficult to use. It didn't really provide a level of access that everybody needed. And I'm sure some of you are experiencing the same thing. If you have a system that doesn't work, or you have a system that doesn't provide the needs, you could do one of two things. Try to work around it, try to live with it, or do what we did. We blew it up completely. Let me give you a little bit of what talent acquisition looked like at Pactiv, and then we'll get to what we did and how we changed that to where we are today. For a company as large as we were, we had no structure when it came to talent acquisition or recruitment. We had 85 different separate contracts with agencies. We had contract recruiters that were our internal recruitment team. We had managers calling headhunters. We had headhunters calling managers. We had individuals who tried to follow the process and went to our recruitment department, who in turn then went out to the headhunters. And there was no rhyme or reason, no engagement, and unfortunately it was very costly. We were spending millions and millions of dollars and not doing our job to really support the organization and grow the organization. So what we needed to do, as we said, was to blow it up and start to create the building blocks of a new talent acquisition system. We created an organization. We did some research. We brought in an in-house recruitment team. We conducted a needs analysis. We asked our customers, and we'll talk a little bit about them later, but those are our hiring managers. What is it that you want? We actually went to the outside and even looked at potentially some of the recent hires. What did we miss out on your engagement? So we dove into this research, came up with some focus groups, made a decision, built this from scratch, as you can see here, as building blocks, and created an integrated approach to talent management. Starts with people, finding the right position, bringing them into the organization, and it's a strategy. At the end of the day, this is what our total talent management life cycle looked like. And this is all of what talent is. Talent is the ability to acquire talent, develop that talent, manage that talent, and retain the talent. And it all starts at the top there with acquiring. And that's what we did. The cycle takes you through acquiring, onboarding them, planning, develop, executing, but you need a backbone. And interestingly enough, this was not done just for this seminar from a Jobvite standpoint, but we utilize this as part of our process to everybody, whether it be internal or external customers. And very key to this is, under acquire, the fact that Jobvite was there to help us. We needed that backbone to ensure we had a applicant tracking system that was real-time, that was modern, that was user-friendly, that had interface, and we'll talk through that and tell you some of the stories in terms of how that developed. At the end of the day, that was our goal, and that is what we accomplished. The ability to take Jobvite, throw everything else, and build it from scratch is what we're going to walk through. And what we're going to do is give you some stories on how maybe you can do it and how it can help your organization as well. It's not the end-all. It's not the best. It's not the worst. it worked for us, and hopefully we'll be able to share some of that with you. So what we're going to do is pass it back over to Claire, and she's going to start with talking some trends to keep in mind while you're trying to go through this change.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, I think that's a wonderful story to hear about the fact that when things are broken, sometimes you do have to explode it and start from scratch in order to get something really good. I think what I'd like to start with today is the whole area of this new world of work that we're really in. Because if you think a bit about this, there's many, many different parts that we're embracing in this new world of work. We've got technology today. If you think of what that means mobile. Think of how many things are mobile today. Mobile is growing very, very fast in all different areas of the business. We also have 24/7 access to the technology. So if you're one of these people who wants to get online at midnight and do some work, you can do that. Networking. You can talk with people through IM, through your internal social network. All of that is there to help you in order to get the information that you need in order to do your work. And certainly we have this proliferation of data. I mean, data is everywhere now. If you look at the changing demographics, I mean, think about this, that we have millennials now that make up 75% of the workforce by 2020, maybe even before then. But you've also got the other generations in the workforce. Even you've got some of the veterans who may be over 65, retirement age, but they're very much engaged in their work. Sometimes they have to because of the economy can keep working, and other times it's just because they really want to. They really enjoy what they're doing. Then you've got the baby boomers who are entering retirement age, and many of them have retired now. So you've got all of these generations working together, and it's a very diverse kind of workplace today. And then you also have the blend of kind of the personal and the work life. It's not 9 to 5 in most occupations today. That's becoming less common. It's a lot of flexibility within the workday that you have. And then you look at the rapid changes in the workplace. You've got change management. You think about change management, it's an ongoing activity. There used to be changes occasionally. Now it's changes all the time. And in fact, sometimes it's more than one change at the same time. And then we're also really embracing change, I think, as an expectation. And I think that workers today have to think that 5 years from now, they may not be doing the same job that they're doing now, and they have to be flexible and able to really embrace that kind of change. Transparency, job transparency. Think of job seekers. You see the logo for Glassdoor there. They know more about your company than you would realize, even before they apply. And they'll stay as employees as long as they feel and that they are really benefiting and that the employer is really benefiting from the relationship. And when they feel they're not able to learn anymore, they're going to move on. So you really have that kind of change happening constantly. And then, of course, the new work environment. We have, if you look in a lot of modern offices today, you will see open areas for collaboration, couches, areas where you can relax and talk or just work. You will see desks that you can raise up and down. You can stand for a while, really thinking about the health and wellness of the person as well. Then you've got the small private rooms where you can go to and work quietly if you need to. And then, of course, the remote workers, so that you've got remote working some of the time, going into the office some of the time, depending on what one is doing. So this whole world of work is really quite different today. So also, not only the world of work, but recruiting has changed dramatically. So if you look at how candidates approach the job search, it's very different from the past. It's no longer that it's kind of this one-way experience where you put in the application and then you wait to hear. And you don't dare call. You're just waiting for somebody to let you know whether or not you move to the next stage. That's not true anymore. The web provides all kinds of information and access to job information. So you get a lot of information that way. Social networks really allow you to find, is there somebody in this company that you already know through your social network? It also allows the recruiters to use social networks to find people that are passive candidates and really encourage them by carefully talking with them to see whether or not they might be interested in the company. And certainly with mobile devices, allowing that very fast and easy access to jobs. You can find it on your mobile device. You can look through what the job possibilities are. You can go to different career websites. This allows you to move very, very quickly and determine whether there's something out there of interest. And then the last bullet there I think is a really important one, and it's recruiters today are really talent relationship managers and they're marketers. Now that isn't something you thought of in the past, but they really are today in order to find that right candidate, not 100 of them, but those 5 or 6 that really look excellent, and then be able to narrow that down to the ideal candidate. I think, too, we have to think about the digital tools that make a lot of this possible, and I've mentioned most of them here. Certainly mobile and social collaboration, that's a really important part. Analytics and data, think about we heard the word big data a lot. There's so much data out there that we in HR have to begin to pull that together, being able to use it for predictive analytics as to the kinds of jobs that we're going to need to look for people in the future, depending on what the strategy is of the organization. And of course, all of that is in the cloud. And that's what makes it possible to get things updated so quickly. It makes it much easier to move around and to get work done because things are in the cloud today. So with that as an introduction, I want to talk a little bit about some of the major trends that I see really driving recruiting. And there are 6 of them. So let me just review these a bit, and then we'll go into depth on each one. First of all, candidates are treated as customers. It's really important today. And when you think about how you treat your customers, you want to do that with candidates as well, because they have a lot of options. They can move very quickly away from you, and it may be a good candidate that you lose. Secondly, engagement through social media. I've mentioned a bit about that. That is a really critical area today. Recruitment marketing, using analytics within recruitment marketing. And then talent communities for job openings. That talent community that you have, or you should have, on your career website that allows people to opt in case you have something in the future that might be good for them. And then the streamlined application process, which I'll talk about more because I think that's a really important area considering the long applications that often organizations have. And then the 6th one is the job skills and culture fit. It's important to have skills, yes, but you've got to also make sure that the individual really fits into your particular culture. So looking at the first one, treating candidates as customers. I feel that the customer life cycle and the candidate life cycle are 2 sides of the same coin, really. Because if you think of what the customer life cycle is like, they discover your product, they explore it a little bit, then they decide to buy it, and they use it, they like it, they ask you about more products, and then they really become engaged with you as a customer. Well, the same kind of thing should happen with the candidate life cycle. They discover you maybe, somebody talks about you, maybe they find you on a career website. They explore a little bit, they look through the career website, they see what's this company like, what are its values, what kind of jobs do they have. They find out a bit about the company and they think, this may be one that I need to explore a bit more. So they explore some more. Then eventually they apply if they feel it's a good fit, and then they prove through interviewing that they are indeed a good candidate. They join, they go through the onboarding, they are into the performance and the work within the company, they are a contributor to the company, and then they move on into other positions within the company because they're continuing to grow. So there's a real similarity there between the customer life cycle and the candidate life cycle. And Joe, I know you have a couple things to say about this.
Sure, and I like the concept. I want to elaborate on the concept of treating the candidates as customers. And in fact, at Pactiv, we actually look at two customer bases. And we really look at their experience. And it is an experience, both from the candidate's perspective as well as the hiring manager's perspective. Talking about the candidate experience, we need to really make them want to join us, but it's not as good as just saying, come to Pactiv, you want to work here. It's not as good as saying, why would you want to go anywhere else? We do have to really provide them an experience. As I said earlier on, Pactiv is not a name that you wake up on any given day or any morning and say, oh, I want to go work at Pactiv. It's not Google. It's not Microsoft. It's not any other environment that may solicit, wow, that would be great. So what are we going to do to get that candidate and have that experience? So we do treat them as customers right from the beginning. We want to be an employer of choice. Throughout the process and how they find out about us, how they get notified by us, and then what we do for them. And that starts right at the beginning. We'll talk a little bit later about how they actually apply, but once they're in, we want to know them as Joe or Sally. We're going to reach out to them. We're going to welcome them to the organization before they even step foot in. They've already done, as Clara said, probably more research on you than you probably know there is out there. So we're not going to try to re-educate them. We're going to welcome them. And we do that by taking those different lines of communication right from the beginning with the talent acquisition recruiter, our professional, and establish that relationship that Claire was talking about. And then continue to strengthen our brand. And that's what we want to sell is who are we, and why do you want to work for us? In today's world, especially with millennials, which is a highly discussed topic, that processing of looking for jobs happens on a regular basis. This is not a once-in-a-lifetime event. They're experts at it, in some cases because they're interviewing quite a bit or they change jobs or, as some of us do, quite often. So the process is there. They want to see what that experience is. So we touch them. We make sure we understand who they are because at that point, they become one of us. And it's an extension of whether we hire them or not, we've now touched them. And we want to ensure that they want to continue to come work for us and want to continue to go through the process. They may refer friends and others, even if they're not qualified. We're going to continue to keep them engaged. Jobvite has helped us do that with a lot of the tools that they offer, and we'll, as I said, talk about that a little bit later. The hiring manager experience is much different than it was years ago. I always remember as I was going through my HR career and I either did some recruitment myself or had recruiters working for me, that it was really a no-win situation for the recruiter because the hiring manager, if they liked the candidate, it was because they themselves hired him. If they didn't like the candidate, it was because HR or somebody gave them a bad candidate. Now we're going to make it one and all. We're all in this together. As soon as a position opens up, that hiring manager is engaged. We actually meet with the hiring manager, the HR professional, the recruiters, to look at an engagement meeting to start the process. What type of individual do we want? We don't hire for today anymore. Another key element of making that candidate experience is we want to let them know that we hire for the future. We see you beyond just filling a job. We look at you as an opportunity to grow with the organization, and that's what makes that candidate experience. How many times have we heard where the hiring manager just says to HR professionals or recruiters, I really don't care, fill my job, that's all I really care about. And that's a lose-lose situation. You may hire someone quickly, but in the end you're paying for it. So we want to make sure the candidate comes in wanting to come and join us, has that experience from the first hello. Welcome to Pactiv. Here's who we are. Here's a package of information to get you started. Here's who you're going to see. when you come into the lobby, when you speak online, you have a relationship building, and you got to keep that going. And the hiring manager is not just the end recipient; it's a person who starts from the beginning. It's not a perfect science, but we continually look at both of those as our customers, not only the candidate, but the hiring manager as well.
Mm-hmm. I think that's so true, Joe, that, oftentimes your customers become your candidates and your employees, and they're the ones that often talk a lot about you, even if they don't get a job, as you mentioned. So let's go on to trend number 2, which is candidate engagement through social media. I've mentioned a bit about that, but think today of the social media that one can use. Certainly, I mentioned Glassdoor. And I've also mentioned LinkedIn, Twitter as well. When you tweet something out to some of your network, then they retweet it. You just think of the thousands and thousands of people that get that. There may be some that are just perfect for this particular job. So always keep that in mind. And of course, Facebook. I always recommend that people make sure they have a presence on Facebook, because it's less formal than the regular website, and often there's communication with the recruiter there if you have questions you want to ask. And I encourage that, because you don't want a load of people that really are not qualified. And if they have questions about the job, you can answer them as a recruiter through Facebook, or even, as you'll see later on, some people actually have chat that's on the website. So that's important. That's a nice way to find out a little bit more about that candidate. See whether or not it's one that you are interested in further. Encourage them to apply if that is the direction that you want to go in. Or if they're not right for the job, they need to know it now, so that you don't have those extra applications that really are not right. So I think, too, that, Joe, you have some figures here that are interesting as in terms of job seekers using social media.
It's actually a whole different world. And again, having done this for many years, it just amazes me where social media is the means and method. The old school of trying to find employees is not going to work. So 59% of job seekers use some sort of social media to research the company culture, not jobs. They're looking at culture. That is a key. Mm-hmm. So you're not going to talk about culture if you post a job on CareerBuilder. You can't get into culture there. Social media allows us to do that. And what we've done at Pactiv is gotten away from a lot of the standard just putting a job on a job board. It's not good enough to say you want an engineer and put it on CareerBuilder. People are not going to come to you. Employees now want to know what that company offers them from a cultural standpoint. What is the DNA of that organization? So what have we done? We've gone to social media environments that allow us to do that. LinkedIn obviously is very good to be able to do that. You get a lot of information. Most companies have pages on there. We do. We show articles. We talk about scenarios. We talk about our product. We found another great a partnership with a website called The Muse. The Muse, interesting enough, for those of you who do not know and may know, was started by two entrepreneurial females, really as a driver for getting the female workforce and the professional workforce to gather more information about what is out there, and now has really been and morphed into an unbelievably great website geared on maybe a technical side more so, millennials more so, but it tells a story about a company. It's not just a job posting board. We've established a relationship now for over a couple of years with the Muse. They came to us and they started to ask questions about our employees. We took pictures. We told stories. They share a video. Didn't even talk about jobs. It was just an opportunity to get to know people. And from there, then they developed the fact that once people go to the Muse, and there's chat information and articles about where to find jobs, what's going on. And then, oh, by the way, why don't you research some companies here? Pactiv has a bunch of jobs open. Why don't you find out about who Pactiv is, where they're located, what they do, listen to some videos, take a virtual tour around the facility, and then you can apply for jobs. That's the recruitment process of today's world. And we've been very successful with that and continue that relationship to this day.
I think that's really important, Joe. I think it's the culture and the values that an organization have, and I think that the Muse really does an excellent job of that. Yes, I really like them. Okay, the third trend here is the recruitment marketing. Recruitment marketing with recruitment analytics. Now, let me explain a little bit about what I mean there. If you look at this diagram, you will see at the bottom, you see the application, the select, and the hire. That's what the ATS does. Now, granted, with the ATS, you can post information to job boards, yes, but mainly it's the application coming in, screening those, selecting the applicants that you want to interview and so forth, and then finally hiring them. And even today, I still get inquiries sometimes from candidates that say, I want to talk about recruiting. And then the same sentence, it's I want to talk about an ATS. They don't think about that outside, that candidate-facing side that Joe and I have been talking about. And that's where the recruitment marketing comes in. It's really important that you have an awareness and that people know about you. And one way is certainly the career website. That your career website tells a lot about you. I think you should look very carefully at that and make sure that that really communicates well who you are. And yes, you may put some jobs on different job boards, but you've got to be very selective about that. You've got to think about the candidate that you want and where's going to be the best place to place this information. What are the ways that we're going to do maybe a campaign around this particular job? Because we want people to think about it, and then we want to really take that thought and create that into real interest. And that's what the recruitment marketing part of recruiting really does. And here you can see that it also has marketing metrics with it, which is really important, so that you can track where did this candidate come from. It shows data for each of the sources. Where did you get the best candidate? Where did you get the most candidates? Usually I find people are most interested in finding where that best IT candidate came from, and maybe that's some place to go back to next time. And looking at, okay, what approaches worked the best for finding these candidates? So you get this recruitment marketing metrics and the source of hire data for all of the job campaigns. You can find out the activity of the career site, people that came to your career site, where did they go? Where did they stay? Where did they seem to disappear? Was it when they got into the application? Was it because that application was too long and they said, I'm not going to continue? So you can find a lot from the activity that people have done on the career site. And then certainly you can see, too, the percentage of employees that were from referrals for existing employees, and how many of them actually converted into employees. We're really finding that a lot of candidates that come from employee referrals do convert into employees. And certainly you've got, as you see here, dashboards that provide all kinds of visual information on the data. So this is really an important area, and Jobvite has a very nice recruitment marketing component to it. So I really say that if you're looking for recruiting, you've got to have the recruitment marketing and you need to have the ATS. Both are really essential. So going on now to the next trend, this is the talent community that I alluded to before. The talent community for future job openings. If someone looks at your jobs and said, this is a company I like, but I don't see anything that's quite right for me now. Well, they should be able to opt in to the job in the website into the network, the talent network. And here you see a network that is a talent network opt-in. This is Lockheed Martin, actually, and you can see a variety of things that they have on the website, but I particularly point out the talent network because it lets you get in there. And then the marketing and recruiting department looks at who's in there, and when positions come along that your information is appropriate for, they ask you just a little bit of information when you go in, then you will get that information. One of the important things is not to put too much information out there to all those people that are in the talent network, because that just becomes noise. It's only information that's important to them because of the information that they've given you. Now, the other thing I want to point out here is on the right side, look at the candidate chat. Lockheed Martin's one of the early ones that put candidate chat in here. And some people, when they've seen this, have said, oh my, I don't know how my recruiters can deal with that. And then others say to me, in fact, I was talking with somebody just yesterday that said, this is really wonderful because we're able to screen out people that really are just not appropriate for the job. And so our recruiters don't have the number of applicants that they had before that were not appropriate. So they really find that candidate chat works well. So I find more and more of this happening now within the career websites. And of course, mobile is a big area, and Joe, you're going to talk about this and also your talent pool.
Sure, and we do believe, and our career site is always constantly updated, but we need to constantly communicate. I love what Lockheed Martin has done, and we've tried to optimize that opportunity for our employees. You go on our career site, and look, the key is, again, whether they saw it somewhere, whether it was on the Muse, whether they saw it at LinkedIn, whether they even saw it in Indeed or wherever it was, we want them to come back. We want them to continually come back. We want to establish that relationship, and it all goes back to relationship and communication. Years ago, when I was looking for jobs early on in my career, it was a one-stop shop. You either you applied for a job. If you heard from them, fine. If not, that was it. End of the day. In fact, you even felt almost to the point where you never want to go back, because if you weren't good enough for them, why would you want to keep coming back? That's not the way of today's world. So we've developed our career site. We've even taken one step further, our actual website. We've now made it and optimized it so that it's mobile as well, with real-time information about jobs. Our potential candidates can create job alerts, so they can set up one or multiple different alerts. They can communicate through with their email. We can get them to look at it at any point in time. Everybody in today's world has a phone readily available. Everybody is mobile. My 87-year-old mother is probably more mobile than I am. Not that she's looking for a job, but if she can do it, anybody can do it. So if that's what's out there, that's what we have to find with them. So we need a way to create and attract passive candidates. We need them to continually have that dialogue. Once they actually become candidates, we've even taken a step further where they're looking at communicating real time with our talent acquisition professionals, the hiring managers, and so forth. It's a way to create this talent pool and talent communities. We'd love to get to that chat area as Lockheed Martin has done, and we're kind of getting there and looking into it. The key is provide opportunities in different platforms for employees or potential employees, candidates, to get to you and you to get back to them. Claire?
Mm-hmm. And our fifth trend here is to streamline the application process. You know, I have found that so many candidates have said, boy, this company looks great. I really like the values. I think this is a good fit for me. And so they find that, there are some jobs here that I would be appropriate for. So they go to the ATS and they find this long, long application. And oftentimes it's a real turnoff, especially if they're using a mobile device. And that's happening more and more. Certainly they're searching for jobs through mobile device, and today they're actually applying. And it is a real turnoff. So I'm saying streamline that application process. At the very beginning, you don't even know if that candidate's going to move any further in the whole process. So you don't need all that information. Just gather the information that you need, and later on you can add to it and add some more information. Now, I know sometimes in government-related jobs there's some issues there and you need to get more information. Hopefully that will change somewhat as we move forward and as we continue to use mobile. But in most cases, really try to streamline it. Those that have found it works very, very well. Because if you look at mobile, which I have said and emphasize again is growing really, really strong in terms of the recruiting area. This is interesting research that actually came from the Pew Research Center. And the question was, among Americans who have used a smartphone as part of a job search, the percentage who have experienced problems. And if you look at those problems, nearly half of the smartphone job seekers, they've had problems either accessing the information or reading the job-related content from their smartphone. You can see the percentage there. So it's high. And so you really, if you do nothing else after this event today, just make sure that you really have a mobile-enabled site where people can easily use their mobile phone to do everything from searching from the job to actually applying, uploading their LinkedIn or their resume, so that you can do everything from their phone. Here's just one more bit of information regarding mobile and how strong it is. And this question was, among Americans who have used a smartphone as part of a job search, the percentage who have done so in order to, and you can see, certainly browsing is the big one. They've been doing that for a while. But also, as you move down here, you can see filling out an application online. That's increasing. And then even creating a resume or cover letter from your mobile device. Not as much. But I think we will find this definitely growing in the future. And I think, Joe, you have some data on this as well.
It amazes me where only 5 to 10%, this is some information that we got from Glassdoor, only 5 to 10% of Fortune 500 companies actually allow job seekers to apply from a mobile device. It just flabbergasts me that if employees or potential employees are looking to do something, why more companies haven't gotten to that mobile enableability. 50% of job seekers feel that it's too difficult to apply for a job online. Applying for a job online was great. That was the best thing since sliced bread, but that was about 20 years ago. So you didn't have to have a resume, put it in the mail, drop it off somewhere. You could actually apply online. Then we created these unbelievable forms that needed to be filled out. And I remember many occasions, even in my career, where folks telling me that they started with this online job application, and by the time they got halfway through it, they said, this isn't worth it. I'm wasting a lot of time. I'm continually repeating. I'm cutting. I'm pasting. It doesn't look right. It doesn't format right. So really the key here, and this is one of the great tools that Jobvite has, is the ability to really do something quickly. And we have. And here's an example of what it is. It basically allows you to do a quick search and apply. You see a job, you take a look at it, you can apply right now and then go right into it. You can apply later and get reminders. You can share via social networks. It's something that is real time. I've seen this in action. I find it great. I kind of look at what is the world today going on, and I know for a fact, because I heard from a good source, that people are even applying for jobs while they're waiting to be interviewed for jobs in the lobby. That's how easy it is. So if you have that ability to do so, then why not? From our standpoint, it's really as easy as one. They can take a picture of their resume. There's no forms to fill out. There's nothing to do. You take a photo or a video. You just put it in. And 2, it gets right to filling in the information that you need. And 3, you're there at that point. And how easy is it to be able to do something in a matter of 2 to 3 clicks with a photo that allows you to apply? Claire was talking about that is the trend. I'm surprised about that statistic from Glassdoor, but I know that we have had potential employees say, hey, even if I didn't get a job with you, I can't wait to see what else is open because it was so easy to apply at your company.
And the last trend number 6, is job skills and cultural fit assessment. We think today, we've got to find the person that has the skills that we need in order to do the job. And certainly that's important. I'm not saying it isn't. But it's also very important to make sure that the cultural fit is right. And you find a lot of organizations today looking at cultural fit, making sure that the people that are applying have some of the same characteristics as those people that have been really the top performers in an organization. So the cultural fit is extremely important, because if the cultural fit isn't there, you'll find that the person's gone after the first 30 days, even if they last that long. I had somebody the other day say that she was a marketing executive, and she said, boy, I got into the company and I couldn't believe what I saw. She said, I'm leaving, and she was gone in less than 30 days. So the culture fit wasn't quite right there, and she agrees that she didn't delve into it in depth enough. And so that's from the candidate side, but also you've got it from the employer side. You want to make sure as an employer that that person is really going to fit in the culture. And of course the interviews help in that, and there's also culture assessments now that organizations have that will give you a sense of whether or not this person really fits into your organization. So I think that as I've talked about recruiting changing, it really is going from an art to a workforce science, because you know what you're looking for today as a recruiter. You're looking for somebody who has learning agility, because as I said earlier, you don't know what the jobs will be in the future. Are they going to be flexible enough to learn more and to change the kind of work that they're doing? Are they going to be willing to get outside of their comfort zone? Are they going to be really flexible? Do they have the social intelligence? I mean, this is really important in terms of working with people. Collaboration is a big area now in terms of the workforce. You've got to be able to collaborate and work with others. But still, do you have that personal perseverance where you will stick to something and work on it? And if you need to work late in the evening, you'll do it because you want to get that done, the real perseverance. And of course, you've got to be self-directed too. So I think all of these things are really important as we begin to look at people. Not only do we want that basic intelligence, but there's other components as well that I think are extremely important. Okay, now we have a few concluding slides here, and Joe, I'll turn it over to you.
So thanks, Claire. And getting back to just what you were saying here in regards to cultural fit, by streamlining the process, the talent acquisition process, by being able to have that candidate experience and get these candidates to us sooner and quicker, we've now been able to actually really delve into what type of candidate we want and creating that cultural fit. And as you remember earlier, I said, we need to hire for the future and not just fill jobs. So what our talent acquisition team and our talent team has done now is created behavioral interview guides or assessments, as Claire said, that really allows us and that experience for that hiring manager to really be part of it and understand that we're not here to fill jobs or fill positions, that we have to look at a cultural fit. And by streamlining this upfront process, which was the most tedious and difficult process, and all a hiring manager wanted to do was to get to a job being filled, now that that's been streamlined, both from the candidate standpoint and from the hiring manager standpoint, we could really do the job we are to do, which is hire for the future, find that cultural fit, and create these behavioral interview guides. Another thing that has happened, as you can see here, is going back to that original story. When we were ready to implode the dysfunctional talent acquisition process, it's because we had no rhyme or reason to know if we were succeeding. And in today's world now, because of our opportunity to work with Jobvite and with the Muse, as you can see here in LinkedIn, we have the opportunity to really see what we do. And we have statistics and analytics to help us, help the hiring managers, help the organization. We can now track some great information on whether it's time to fill, whether it's associated costs through recruitment, relocation, average cost per hire, whether it's turnover and retention. The ability, as you can see here, these are just snapshots of some of our web pages. The first one in the upper left-hand corner is our Muse page that talks to employees, and these are real employees in our office. And then LinkedIn with our video on LinkedIn and in our own career site and our mobile site, and the opportunity to do that. And at the end of the day, it also helps us as a government contractor to be able to meet all federal compliance regulations through the OSCCP and the Department of Labor. So at the end of the day, it gets us all back to the same thing we've talked about before. We created a Pactiv talent management system and life cycle. It's an inclusive total life cycle for the employee from the minute they think about even joining the organization to the day they leave, and hopefully that's well down into their future. It starts with the acquisition process. It starts with the candidate relationship, and we've had great success in having a relationship with Jobvite as the backbone to get us there. Claire.
So let me just finish up a little bit here with some must-do recruiting activities for you. And certainly I've talked about these, but just to make sure they're in your mind, treating your candidates, and not only candidates but hiring managers, as customers. Really important. One of the documents that I've written at Forrester is looking at the outside in. We so much look inside the organization and through the recruiting process, but really think about that candidate. Put yourself in the shoes of that candidate and how they're feeling as they come and look at you as an organization. And then certainly, I think you know it now, but develop a branded, mobile-optimized career website where people can do the entire process of applying from your website and really get a sense of who you are, what the organization stands for, your culture, and your values. And third, build an engaged candidate experience, making sure that you've got social media presence and that people are aware that they can find more information through the social media. And then number 4, develop that talent community and create those campaigns for those specific people that you want to hire, and you really need to get a specific campaign around it. Get the marketing people involved with you. I find a lot today that marketing people are working with recruiters really to be able to hone the particular marketing campaign. And also streamline that application process so that they don't get to the point where they said, this is not worth it, I'm going on to some other site. And number 6, create a hiring process that really assesses the candidate's job skills and cultural fit. Don't forget about that cultural fit. And then you've got to select the recruitment technology. You know, Jobvite will do this for you. It has a clean, a simple, and a personal experience, and that's what you want. You want to be able to get access to a wide variety of jobs from a variety of distribution sources. That's where your recruitment marketing comes in. You want to engage active and passive candidates through the talent community that we talked about and social media. You know, I have some companies that say they go to their talent community and they find candidates that they need there. They don't need to go outside that much anymore because they have such a robust talent community. And enable the graphic analytics data to allocate the budget to the most effective resources, because you know those after a while when you work with recruitment marketing, you know which ones are giving you the best candidates. Put those resources there. And then integrate with the ATS. Certainly the ATS, the applicant tracking system, is really important. You've got to have an internal streamlined process, but don't forget about this talent relationship management. Sometimes you will hear it called candidate relationship management, and I've gone away from that term because it gets confused with customer relationship management. So I call it TRM, talent relationship management. But it's really, both of them go together. I think in a recruiting application you need the TRM, or if you call it CRM, that's fine, and you also need the ATS. And lastly, support mobile throughout the recruitment process. That is really critical. So with that, we've come to questions and answers, and I'm going to turn this back to Claire from Jobvite.
Thanks so much, Claire, and thanks to Joe as well. So yes, I'm going to go through some of the questions that we've gotten in the chat box, but please feel free to continue to send them in. We'll have time for at least a couple more. So starting off, Edgar had a question that may be a little bit more tied to Claire, but I'd definitely love to hear both of your guys' opinions. So given the nature of big data, millennials, and constant collaboration, what do you predict the recruiting or talent acquisition industry and market will look like in 2 to 5 years?
Well, that's an interesting one. Certainly, I think that mobile is going to be a major component of that. I think that also the talent recruitment marketing that I've talked about is going to grow. I talk with people and do research all the time looking at some of these applications, and I find that organizations are really looking at that way to engage talent early before the actual application process. So I think there'll be a real emphasis on that. I think that applicants will know more about the organization. They know a lot today, but I think they'll even know more. There will be that transparency will be really very important, and I think that organizations have to accept that transparency into their organization is what candidates want. They want to make the right decision as to whether or not this is a company they want to join. So transparency is important from both sides there. So I'll let Joe add to that.
Sure, and I think the key here is just what Claire said and elaborate some more. Talent acquisition and the industry in general is going to change because the applicants are changing every day. And it's more now about not the position, it's about the fit, it's about the culture, it's about what's in it for me. We talk about millennials, and my wife and I are the proud owners of 2 millennials. And we know, and we've heard and we've seen that how they think about looking for work and when to look for work, it's not about the job. It's about what's it going to do for me? What's my life going to be like? How am I going to be able to manage work-life balance? Can I work when I want to work? It's no longer what the company wants the individual to do. It's what the individual wants to do for the company. So we have to adapt as an industry. We have to adapt in the talent acquisition scenario, or else we will not get those candidates that are coming out there in the world today.
Definitely on point, both of you guys. And so we had a question from Greg, who said, I'm a huge fan of culture fit. How do Claire and Joe feel about personality profiles like Myers-Briggs or similar tests like that? And where does it fall into the process, if at all? Can we start maybe with Joe?
Yeah, you know what? There are hundreds of personality assessments, profiles, whatever is out there. I look at whatever works for your organization to figure it out is what it is. There's no one kind of answer to it. So what we did, and I can talk about what we did, is we went out and really talked to not just the candidates, but to the hiring managers, talked to from our CEO and our executive team, myself and my peers, in terms of what does Pactiv offer a candidate? What does the candidate look like? What do we want out of the candidate? What's our DNA? I don't know if Myers-Briggs or anything else can tell anyone what their particular company DNA is, but we know it. We know it better than everybody else. So we did our own analysis. We know we're a fast-moving company. We know that we respond on 80% of the information and kind of wing it with the other 20% because we're trying to be ahead of our customers, ahead of the industry. So I'm a huge fan of it. We're a huge fan of culture fit. And we are not shy in letting our potential candidates know you're not for this organization based on X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm. And just to add quickly to that, I think that I found with one company, they were using Myers-Briggs to actually help the internal communication. And one example was if you were going to go talk to a manager within the company, then you could look at Myers-Briggs and really understand how that person liked to be communicated with. And it really helped in the relationship within the company. So not so much in the recruiting area, but more in that relationship building and understanding other people and you know, how they liked to be involved in terms of an interactive situation. So I think that's another way that it can be used.
Great. And so I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. I know that we've gone a couple minutes over, but I wanted to thank you both, Claire and Joe, for joining us today and speaking on the trends and how Pactiv has revamped your recruiting process and everything involved in it. And I hope it was helpful to everyone on the line. And I've gotten a couple of questions to this note. We are going to be sending out the slides and the recording to everyone who joined, as well as anyone who registered. So if you do have any colleagues or anyone who weren't able to join today, they'll be able to watch the webinar completely tomorrow or whenever you guys would like. So thank you very much again to Claire and Joe, and I hope everyone has a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.